Good evening, it's News 360 coming to you live from the News Hub here at Asare Kanda. I am Portia Gabor.
And my name is Kwesi Asare. And coming up in the next 60 minutes.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint,
Pepsodent Charcoal and Pepsodent Herbal.
Former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to return to Ghana to answer alleged corruption-related offences as special prosecutor removes his name as a fugitive from justice and a wanted person.
Government shuts down Boku-based Guma FM following escalation in the chieftaincy conflict there.
Also in the bulletin tonight, President John Dramani Mahama assures stakeholders at the National Educational Reform Summit their recommendations will effectively be utilized.
In business news, financial economists project improved credit ratings for Ghana following government establishment of sinking fund.
And later on the foreign front, more than 200 unarmed civilians killed in a cluster of villages in Sudan over 3 days by paramilitary rapid support forces. We've got details of these stories, plus many more coming up in the next 60 minutes. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. You can join us with your views, comments, and suggestions on any of our top stories this hour. Feel free to visit any of our social media pages on Facebook and on X.
In our first story, President John Mahama has submitted his assets declaration forms to the Auditor General with a clear directive to the Chief of Staff to instruct all appointees of government to take steps to declare theirs by close of March 31, 2025. The President has, in a stern caution to all public officers, indicated that he takes very seriously assets declaration and will not countenance non-compliance. Failure to do so could attract removal from office.
I've just performed a simple but brief, very important act of presenting my completed assets declaration forms to the Auditor General as required by Article 286 of the 1992 Constitution and the Public Office Holders Declaration of Assets and Disqualifications Act 1998, Act 550. I've also taken this step to send an unmistakable signal to all public office holders, especially those that I have appointed, that I take the declaration of assets very seriously and expect full compliance from them. I've asked the Chief of Staff to send word to all appointees to ensure that they declare their assets by the end of the first quarter of this year, that is by 31st March 2025. I wish to stress that any appointee failing to meet this deadline would face severe sanctions, not excluding removal from office. Even as we strive to hold past government officials accountable for their stewardship, I deem it even more imperative to enforce anti-corruption among our present public office holders. Charity, they say, begins at home. I'm therefore determined to take the necessary steps to ensure that we fight corruption vigorously so that the precious little resources that have been entrusted to us by the Ghanaian people are used only in their interest. There have been issues raised about the effectiveness of the current assets declaration regime. We must take advantage of the current constitution review process to strengthen the assets declaration regime to make it more relevant to changing times. I believe that we must move to a regime where the assets so declared can be published before and after public office, so that the phenomenon of unexplained and overnight wealth, obviously earned through the proceeds of corruption, can be checked.
Let's speak to the Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Mary Ada. Thank you so much for your time. The President has indeed declared his assets. What signal does this send?
And good evening to your viewers. I believe declaring the assets is in the right direction It's a good signal the president has given, and the indication is not just the declaration, it's also the statement that followed the declaration, that there is no other way but for everybody to do so and be compliant with the law. And I believe that such statements he has made, I believe this is the second time I'm hearing it within the short time he's been. As he swore in his ministers, he continued to talk about it. And now he's gone ahead to declare his assets. I am very sure many of those who were already told have done so.
Are there additional steps that he needs to take beyond just declaring these assets? Hello, Mary. Looks like we have lost Mary Ada. She is the Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative. In more news tonight, let's look at the composition of the Council of State. In total, there are 31 members, 3 ex-official members. There's 1 person who is the president of the National House of Chiefs, 16 regional representatives, and 11 people appointed by the president.
If you just joined us, you're watching News 360, our major news bulletin for the day. We're going to be crossing over live now to the presidency, where we have the swearing in of the Council of State members.
May I invite the family of the Chan Appeal to join him for some photographs? Thank you very much. May I invite Mr. Saka Abuba from the Northeast region. Mr. Abuba's family can now join him for some photographs. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Yao Owusu Obempe, businessman and former regional chairman of the National Democratic Congress in the Ashanti region. He represents the Ashanti region for the avoidance of doubt. May Mr. Obempe's family join him.
In more news tonight, the Health Minister Kwesi Kando says the cholera and meningitis outbreaks in parts of the country are steadily improving and crediting stakeholder efforts for the progress. Concerns, however, remain over sanitation challenges which continue to pose a threat to public health.
The Health Minister, delivering a statement on the floor of Parliament, noted that the cholera outbreak in parts of the country is improving. He attributed the progress to the efforts of stakeholders working to combat the spread.
The current cholera outbreak began over 5 months ago in October 2024 in Ada West in the Greater Accra region. Since the outset in October 2024, it has unfortunately spread to other districts in Greater Accra and 4 other regions. As of 13 February 2025, we have recorded 6,145 cases, 719 confirmed cases, and unfortunately 49 deaths. It is worth noting that the situation is improving.
Expressing concern over the country's sanitation challenges, Kwesi Kando called for a multi-sectoral approach to address the issue.
Despite our efforts, we continue to face challenges in our response to the cholera outbreak. These challenges include poor sanitation and hygiene practices and limited access to safe water. As you can see, Mr. Speaker, cholera persists in our country for a reason. It persists because of a poor sanitation, including open defecation, unsafe water, and unhygienic food. As a result, Mr. Speaker, cholera requires a multi-sectorial approach in our effort to bring it under control.
On the outbreak of meningitis, the Health Minister highlighted the government's handling of the situation so far, while acknowledging its severity.
The current meningitis outbreak in the Upper West region is rightly a cause of serious concern. In the current season, as of Sunday, 16 February, we had recorded over 129 cases and unfortunately 16 deaths, while 29 people are currently on admission. Despite the substantial number of cases and unfortunate deaths, I wish to assure the House and the good people of Ghana that we have made considerable efforts to keep the outbreak under control.
Meanwhile, the minister also confirmed a single case of the human metapneumovirus HMPV in the country, a respiratory virus that can cause a range of respiratory illness from mild cold-like symptoms to severe pneumonia.
Let me now give you a breakdown of the cholera outbreak in the country. Currently, there are 6,145 suspected cases, and out of these suspected cases, 719 have been confirmed as having cholera, with a total of 49 people dying as a result of this outbreak. The affected regions are the Greater Accra, Central, Western, Eastern, and Ashanti regions of Ghana. And this has been going on for 5 months now. So for 5 months now, there's been a cholera outbreak in the country, with the case fatality rate being 6.81%, meaning that for every 100 confirmed cases, approximately 7 people have died. The attack rate is 11.7%, meaning about 1 in 9 suspected cases have tested positive for cholera. The mortality rate is 0.80%, meaning that less than 1 in every 100 suspected cases results in deaths. The average suspected cases per month is 1,229 cases, with the average confirmed cases per month being 144 cases. Average deaths per month being 10 deaths. And the suspected cases every day is 41 cases.
We're going to take you back to the presidency, where the Council of State is being sworn in today by the President, John Dramani Mahama. We're told the President is delivering a speech, and we're going to go there live right now.
Our democratic institutions. In addressing these issues, your voices must be heard not in mere rhetoric, but in insightful, actionable, and transformative guidance that will propel our nation forward. As you take your oath of office today, I urge you to be guided by the principles of integrity, objectivity, and above all, the national interest. Let your deliberations be marked by sincerity, your advice be rooted in wisdom, and your service be inspired by the supreme welfare of the people of Ghana. I also wish to draw attention to heightened expectation of all who serve in public office. Ghanaians have indicated their revulsion for poor governance and have come to expect nothing short of quality administration of their affairs. In recent times, the Council of State has come under criticism from an expectant public who perceive their work as unsatisfactory and merely one designed to rubber stamp executive decisions. Some have even questioned the very relevance of the Council of State and called for it to be scrapped. I hold out hope that your tenure as Council of State members will convince those who may doubt your functional necessity about your importance and put to rest any such perceptions. On behalf of the people of Ghana and on my own behalf, I congratulate you on your appointment. I'm confident that with your collective wisdom, we'll continue to build a nation that upholds justice, progress, freedom, and unity. May God bless you in your service, and may He bless our beloved Ghana. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
All right, so you just heard that the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, delivering that speech at the swearing-in ceremony of the Council of State. So in total, we have 31 members of the Council of State. I just run you through some notable names or figures on that list of Council of State members. We've got a former Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Edward Do Ajaho. We've also got a former Chief Justice, Justice Sophia Akufu, who was Justice of the Supreme Court. We've got a former Inspector General of Police in the person of Mohammed Ahmed Al-Hassan, a former Chief of Defense Staff, Marshal Michael Sampson, and also we've got the President of the National House of Chiefs, Ojia Hoho Yao JB II. And so these are the institutional members on the Council of State. Portia, you want to share a few of the list with us? Okay, sure. Let me just run you through some of the nominees, those who've been nominated by the President John Dramani Mahama, 10 of them. We've got Dasibre Buama Dak, who's the chief of the Achim Kukrantume area, or Sabrema Kwesi Ata II, paramount chief of the Ogwa Traditional Council. We've got Mr. Cletus Avuka, who is a former MP for Zebila. We've also got Dr. Eunice Brook Manemisa. I'm sure you remember her. She's a former Minister of Health. We've also got Madam Betty Moldidrisu, who's a former Attorney General. And so these are the notable names on the Council of State. And in total, we've got 3 ex-official members, 1 President of the National House of Chiefs, 16 regional representatives, and 11 of them appointed by the President, making a total of 31 members. In other news tonight, the special prosecutor has removed former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta's name from the list of wanted persons. Consequently, he is no longer considered a fugitive from justice pending his voluntary return. Well, this follows a letter transmitted through his lawyers to the OSP communicating a definite date of his return to Ghana. A release issued by the OSP on Tuesday said the communication marks a major turning point for Ken Ofori-Atta's previous intentions. The release did not state when the former finance minister said he will arrive in Ghana, but the OSP said he will arrive in Ghana. He's expected to return at a reasonable date. Now, the OSP, however, added that if Ken Ofori-Atta fails to return to Ghana, it will re-enter his name as a fugitive and a wanted person and will use all legal means to secure his return to Ghana. Let's speak to Adam Senanu, who is an anti-corruption campaigner. He joins us live for some analysis on this. So the OSP has described the latest move by Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta to return to Ghana as reasonable. I guess this should settle matters now.
Well, yes. In the interim, at least the further and better particulars relating to when he'll be available to do the one-on-one engagement with the OSP reassures the SP, I believe, that he's not avoiding being questioned, and he will make himself available. So I think that at least for now, addresses the concerns of the institution.
And is that not why the critics of the Office of the Special Prosecutor say that he could have handled this in a much more better way?
I don't know what much better way would mean. I mean, in this instance, I 100% support what the approach the OSP did. The OSP wrote, and I think that's where the things went, off course, because the first response from Mr. Frietta was that he was indefinitely unavailable. And I think every law-abiding citizen, when you are invited by a security agency, ought to make yourself immediately available or indicate through some negotiation when exactly you'll be available. But to suggest that you will not be available and indefinitely so, it sets a precedent and a tone that it certainly wouldn't augur well. And then they asked for further and better particulars. A medical report was provided that just said, this is our client, and in March, certain tests will be done, without saying exactly when it would end and then he would be available. And I think it was just made worse when the lawyers or whoever accused the OSP of raiding the minister's house, which was not true. So I think they set off to a very poor start. I don't think that the responses were the kind that we ought to give if you are required or invited by a security agency. And I'm not surprised that the conclusion the OSP drew when they were being accused of having raided was that, look, these people are just avoiding being available, and therefore declared him a fugitive. I think there's a lesson to be learned for all citizens and persons who attempt trying to run away from legally required questioning. And I don't think that the criticism of the OSP is justified.
Thank you very much. Adam Senano is an anti-corruption campaigner. We appreciate your time here on News 360.
The opposition NPP is accusing the NDC of spreading falsehood and net commentary following President Mahama's directive for the payment of 6 billion cedis to bondholders. According to Stephen Amwa, a former Deputy Minister of Finance, the NPP government did not default on payment to bondholders.
There is this misconception that the bondholders were not paid. The previous government was not performing its obligation. That is palpable false. It is crystal clear here that we started paying them from 2023, and we have never ever since then defaulted. So we want to make this clear to our stakeholders, because we think misinformation introduces arbitrariness in decision-making processes, and sometimes some of these things tarnish the image and dwindle our goodwill as, a viable party that will soon come to power by 2028. We want to put an end to misinformation and propaganda in this country.
Now, government has yet again shut down Boku-based Guma FM following escalation in the chieftaincy conflict there. The local radio station was part of some 4 shut down in February of last year, following concerns their platforms were being used to fuel tensions within the area. Now, a year down the line, and with the conflict spreading to other parts of the north, the communications minister has, upon the advice of the Interior Ministry, directed the shutdown of the station. So let's look into the details of this issue. So we started with the basis for the shutdown. We know that the Upper East Regional Security Council extensively reviewed recent security developments in Boku and parts of the Northeast region. Intelligence reports indicated that the Guma FM station had been used as a platform to incite violence, disrupt public order, and escalate tensions in the region. So a directive to shut down the station was procured in accordance with Section 13(1)(e) of the Electronic Communications Act 2008, which empowers the NCA to suspend or revoke frequency authorizations in the interest of national security. So Guma FM station, we're told, according to that order, must cease all operations with immediate effect while there's ongoing monitoring to be implemented to prevent the establishment of alternative platforms that may be used to propagate violence or further destabilize the region.
Meanwhile, the National Communications Authority has been directed to suspend operations of some 6 radio stations following failure to renew authorization. The order by the Communications Ministry follows a failure by the 6 to make statutory payments and submitting required documentation. Among others, the latest follows a similar of such shutdown by the previous administration, which analysts say targeted opposition media outlets and a state-sponsored gagging of the media. Let's run you through the stations and what the basis of the suspension is. First on the list is the Fire Group of companies in Sonyan with 90.1 megahertz and Isaiah Consults Limited in Tamale, and the Volta Regional Channel Media Group in Adidume. Ochame Radio Limited in Bibiani, Mumen Bono Foundation in Techiman, Osikeni Community FM in Nkrankwanta. These are the 6 stations who have been suspended. Now, the reason for suspension are that they failed to renew their authorizations, they also failed to fulfill statutory payment obligations, and they also failed to submit the required documentation within the stipulated time frame. And as a result, the station's authorizations have lapsed by operation of law, rendering their continued operations illegal. All frequency authorization holders are urged to comply strictly with the terms of their authorizations to avoid similar enforcement actions.
Elsewhere, the President John Dramani Mahama has given his firm commitment of prioritizing the ideas and recommendations arising from the National Education Forum, which kicked off today, Tuesday, February 18. Now, addressing the opening session of the 2-day consultative forum at Ho in the Volta region, the President said he is more than willing to implement the final blueprint that will see a massive transformation of education in the country.
It was a campaign promise finalized into the President's 120-day social contract, a gathering of experts and non-experts, students, traditional authorities, among others. For experts who are leading the effort at gathering, inclusivity is key. President John Dramani Mahama emphasized his government dedication to prioritizing education and implementing comprehensive reforms to enhance this sector.
I committed to ensuring that all who are concerned about education in Ghana have an opportunity to contribute meaningfully to shaping the policies and programs that will deliver the kind of education we all want. I'm gratified that this has become a reality, and I stand before you today to officially open the National Education Consultative Forum with great pleasure and a deep sense of purpose. This moment marks a significant step in fulfilling one of the commitments of our 120-day social contract with the good people of Ghana. A commitment to build consensus on the urgent and necessary reforms needed to reset our education sector.
President Mahama urged participants at the National Education Forum to let these aspirations guide their discussions and policy recommendations.
Education reform is a shared responsibility. It is a collective journey that requires all voices, all perspectives, and all hands on deck. This consultative process, I believe, will bring out the best solutions born out of dialogue, partnership, and mutual understanding to deal with our current and future challenges. Our goal today is to engage in an honest and productive discussion about the current state of education in Ghana, to diagnose the challenges and craft a bold and actionable roadmap for reform. Dr. Chairman, the current challenges facing our educational system require strategic priorities, fresh solutions, derived from objective and non-partisan interrogation of issues.
He also encouraged attendees to approach the task with objectivity, creativity, and courage.
As we embark on this important dialogue, let us not lose sight of the bigger picture. The task before us is not just about fixing what is broken, but about building an education system that is fit for purpose in our today's dynamic world. Let us envision an education system where every child, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to achieve their full potential. Let us envision an education system where teachers are celebrated, supported, and empowered to inspire the next generation. Let us envision an education system where schools are the centers of innovation and learning, and that prepares students not just for exams, but for lifelong learning.
The committee spearheading the national reforms after a nationwide consultation will present a blueprint to government in March on the way forward.
Right, so I'm just going to take you through the current educational policies that are to be looked at. It includes the free senior high school policy, the school feeding program, the teacher licensure examination, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education policy, the National Literacy Acceleration Program, NALAP, the Ghana Smart Schools Project, the double track system, the feeding challenges, inadequate infrastructure, misallocation of intended funds, private senior high schools under siege, including work overload on teachers, reducing contact hours. So these are the current challenges that, we know that the educational sector is bedeviled with. And so, these are matters that the whole dialogue session is supposed to be looking at and to be trying to find solutions to. The challenges also include the misallocation and mismanagement of funds of about 5.3 million cedis, which was lost financially in the financial year 2023. There's also the issue of the quality and quantity of meals. We're told 23% of the sampled schools fail to provide quality meals, whilst 68.2% do not offer adequate meals. These are major challenges that the dialogue will be looking at, which includes inadequate funding model. We're told currently that it's 1 cedi 50 pesos paid per child, while the caterers are recommending an upward adjustment to 3 cedi 50 pesos per child. There are also challenges with disparities in resource allocation, resulting in an imbalance in rural schools receiving insufficient and poor quality meals. Some of the challenges also include the alleged partisanship in awarding catering contract, which has resulted in huge infrastructural deficit that has increased the number of schools under trees to over 5,000 plus. There's also the lack of textbooks after 6 years of the introduction of the new curriculum. There's also the challenge of the non-payment of capitation grants for more than 8 terms. And then finally, the issue of infrastructure. We know there's inadequate school buildings and furniture, especially in rural areas. There's a lack of digital infrastructure for STEM and AI education, the issue of high cost of facility construction and maintenance, as well as limited private sector involvement and poor maintenance.
In other news, the Ghana Journalists Association says it will stop at nothing in securing justice for slain journalists and media practitioners assaulted in the line of duty. It says assurances are not enough, promising to seek international legal redress in the case of deceased investigative journalists Ahmed Swale and Latif Idrisu, who is enduring a lifetime injury. The association has called on the President and security to act immediately.
The Ghana Journalists Association has expressed worry over the increasing cases of assault on journalists and saying that this year alone, at least 7 cases have been reported. It says past assurances in dealing with the murder of investigative journalist Ahmed Swale, as well as Latif Idris and others, have not received the needed action. They say that if by end of March the police does not take any action, they will head to the ECOWAS Court of Justice to seek redress.
In the case of Ahmed Swale, our international partners, including the Federation of African Journalists, FAJ, and the International Federation of Journalists, IFG, have also indicated their readiness to pursue justice. If we don't see or hear anything concrete from the police after the end of March,
2025, we shall proceed to the ECOWAS Community Court of Justice to find justice for Swale and Latif.
The association also expressed worry over the attacks on journalists during the Council of State election in the Ashanti regional capital of Kumasi, saying that they fear the country may head into anarchy if the security is not controlled and checked.
Our intelligence suggests that the thugs and criminals who assaulted the journalists are supporters or sympathizers of the ruling National Democratic Congress, NDC. This only sends warning signals that Ghana is heading towards a state of anarchy. It appears there's no law and order, and there's no security in the country.
The association has called on the President John Dramani Mahama to redeem his pledge in ensuring the safety and interests of journalists. It also says that it will go ahead to petition the military high command to ensure that security personnel do not attack journalists in the line of their duty.
We wish to take this opportunity to appeal to one of our own, President John Dramani Mahama, to take a personal interest in these cases as the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces and ensure that the perpetrators are arrested, arraigned, and punished for their crimes. We also intend to petition the military high command over the Wale Wale incident, since it involves a soldier.
Christian Yale, TV3 News, Ghana International Press Center, Accra.
The acting managing director of the Ghana Publishing Company Limited, Nana Kwesi Boate, has emphasized the need to kickstart the government's 24-hour economy policy in earnest. I beg your pardon. Now, during his official visit to the company, he reiterated his commitment to increasing productivity to meet market demand while creating employment opportunities for the youth.
The Assembly Press is one of the few state-owned commercial entities that has survived various leadership transitions. Once on the brink of collapse, the company has been revived and is now categorized as a profit-making state-owned enterprise, SOE. It is mandated to print and publish high-quality books and stationery for government departments, educational institutions, and the general public. Additionally, it is responsible for printing and publishing key government documents, including acts, bills, legislative instruments, LIs, and constitutional instruments, CIs. The appointment of Nana Kwesi Boate as the acting managing director is aimed at strengthening the company's strategic direction to fulfill its mandates. On his first day in office, he was accompanied by the outgoing managing director, David Asante, and met with staff, emphasizing the urgency of implementing the government's 24-hour economy policy to enhance productivity and create job opportunities for the youth.
My first and initial commitment is to ensure that we will practicalize the president's vision of a 24-hour economy almost immediately. I have seen that you are ready for it, and I see no reason why we should not be able to double our production, double our sales, and double our staff. So I ask you for your support and your commitment to this place, and it is my prayer that the mark that David has left would only be a thin line by the time I leave, because I will hope that we will leave a bigger, much bigger line.
The company has undergone structural reforms and introduced new systems to boost revenue, curb corruption, and cut costs. Stanley Nibleu, TV3 News, Accra.
A reminder to watching News 360, our major news bulletin for the day. We'll be back with more stories.
To several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo Paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo Paint, simply superior. You know, one bucket of Flamingo Paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo Paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo Paint, simply superior.
Darling natural twists blend with her hair over time. Yeah, that's perfect. She's really more beautiful every week. Darling Natural Twists get better every day, just like you.
To us trendsetters, to us fashion lovers, to us who flex with beautiful, unique and attractive fragrance, to us who sing of our magnificent life. Daring to feel different today means impacting a pleasant scent. For tomorrow's dawn, feel good, feel strong. Together let's break these rules and set new ones with slam. Together let's break these rules and set new ones with slam.
Whenever you fly to space or take your first step as baby, Soft Care always stays with you.
New Soft Care Space Series is rooted from space technology. Keeps you dry and comfortable for 12 hours long. Offers you the most effective protection during your space journey.
Soft Care. Protect your leap.
Good business means seeing the possibilities and maximizing opportunities. Making sure you have a responsive support system. Backs your business goals. A partner that gives you a stable platform with reliable connectivity and seamless solutions, and better understands the tools required to take you to the next level. With so many moving parts in running a business, we do our best to provide you with some stability. The only kind of stability you can find with MTN Business Broadband, the fastest and most reliable internet provider in Ghana, making sure you stay ahead and stay connected, because we understand what makes your business tick.
Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh or call or WhatsApp 0244 308 111.
MTN.
The business segment is brought to you by MTN.
West Hills Ridge Property, Eden Heights.
A very good evening, a warm welcome to the business news segment here on News 360. Now, a professor of finance at the Gimpa Business School, Ebenezer Bugri Anafo, has expressed optimism that the government's establishment of a sinking fund will help improve the country's credit ratings and boost investor confidence. In an interview with 3 Business, he lauded the president for an initiative, stressing it is a sign of the country's commitment to paying its bond coupons when they fall due.
Government has settled a little above 6 billion cedis cash payment to bondholders under the Domestic Debt Exchange Program and deposited 9.7 billion cedis into the sinking fund as a buffer for upcoming debt obligations. Professor of Finance at Gimpa Business School, Ebenezer Bugri Anafo believes the move will improve Ghana's credit ratings.
Apart from the investors, it will also improve financial stability in the economy. This is because most of the government securities were bought by banks. And once government can guarantee payment of its loans and interest, the overall financial system will be stable. It will also improve the government of Ghana credit ratings by Moody's and Fitch.
He also urged the government to pay attention to the country's procurement processes to ensure fiscal discipline.
Chunk of our monies are wasted in the area of public procurement. So government must also ensure discipline when it comes to public procurement so that we can get value for money. We need to intensify our effort in terms of domestic revenue mobilization. And that would mean that we must have a tax system that is much more friendly.
In other news tonight, green Energy and Green Transition Minister John Jinapor has reaffirmed his ministry's commitment to tackling the rising fuel cost in Ghana. He announced plans to establish a stakeholder committee to propose practical solutions to ease the burden on consumers. Mr. Jinapor made these remarks at the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies Downstream Dialogue, where industry players gathered to discuss key challenges in the downstream petroleum sector.
This government, through the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition,
is committed to extensive consultation and collaboration with these sector agencies and petroleum service providers, as well as stakeholders, to improve service delivery in the petroleum downstream sector. In this regard, the ministry is in the process of constituting a petroleum downstream review committee with representation from key stakeholders in the sector to advise the ministry on the way forward. And as you may be aware, we've written to most of the sector agencies and stakeholders to submit names of representatives so that together we can brainstorm, consult, review, and chart a path that will make this sector better for all of us. This process, I believe, will ultimately result in the promulgation of a holistic downstream law aimed at comprehensively regulating the downstream sector, which will ultimately cover key areas such as refining, distribution, marketing, price build-up, and retail of petroleum products.
In other news, President of the Chartered Insurance Institute of Ghana, Solomon Lartey, has raised concerns about the absence of insurance representation in President Mahama's constituted National Economic Dialogue Planning Committee. He made these remarks at the CIIG investiture and President's cocktail in Accra.
President John Dramani Mahama recently constituted a 7-member National Economic Dialogue Planning Committee. The initiative is intended to address the nation's pressing economic challenges while charting a path towards sustainable development. By speaking to 3 business at his outfit's investiture, re-elected president of the Chartered Insurance Institute of Ghana, CIIG, Solomon Lartey, said there was the need to have insurance representation to prefer proper risk management solutions to government policies and programs.
There should never be an economic dialogue, for instance, without an insurance professional in that. In fact, most of the major boards in the country must have insurance professionals. The idea is to bring proper risk management, insurance-based risk management solutions to our industries, to the economy, to our everyday lives.
The CIIG president also reiterated plans to assume full regulation of professionals through a charter.
We intend to obtain our own charter going forward, and which would make us independent, so we would be able to fully independently regulate all insurance professionals in Ghana.
In other news tonight, seasoned insurance professional Dr. Abiba Zakaria takes over as acting commissioner of the National Insurance Commission amid key policy decisions, including the 10% motor insurance tariff hike. The newly appointed acting commissioner of the National Insurance Commission, Dr. Abiba, faces a major test as she steps into the office. Now, a key issue awaiting a decision is a pending 10% motor insurance tariff hike, which has been on hold amid industry and consumer concerns.
Newly appointed acting commissioner of the National Insurance Commission, Dr. Abiba Zakaria, takes office at a time when Ghana's insurance industry is grappling with low penetration and regulatory challenges. A crucial issue on her desk is whether to implement the proposed 10% increase in motor insurance tariffs, a decision that has been put on hold. The insurance industry argues that the tariff hike is necessary to keep insurers financially stable and able to meet claims. However, motorists and businesses worry about the added cost burden, especially in an economy where fuel prices and vehicle maintenance expenses are already high. Beyond the tariff debate, Dr. Zakaria is also expected to drive policies that will expand insurance coverage, which currently stands at just 30%. Stakeholders will be watching closely to see how she navigates these pressing issues while ensuring consumer protection and industry growth.
Well, that's it for the very latest in the world of business. Coming up next is the latest in sports.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on News 360. Asante Kotoko have announced that they will resume training on Wednesday after going on a break. since the death of their fan, Nana Pole. Let's take a look at the statement released by the Kumasi-based club. These are some of the keynotes. First off, it says the official training of the senior team begins tomorrow. And secondly, held meetings with Minister of Sports, Honorable Kofi Adams, the Minister of Interior, Honorable Muntaka Mubarak, and then Inspector General of the Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare. And then it calls on the Attorney General's Department to intensify their efforts to ensure that the case is pursued with urgency and seriousness that it deserves. Club position remains unchanged that they would not compete in any official matches until meaningful and decisive actions are taken to secure justice and protect the future of the game. Now let's move away from Asante Kotoko. Now, having produced some of the great names in Ghana's political history, Sekondi Hazakis have in the years been very high when it comes to boxing and the passion and the love for the sport. Now, from boasting of Olympic champions and national champions, the city has struggled and for a long time have had to look at the likes of Greater Accra as they've taken the shine when it comes to boxing. We put together this feature to throw more light on what exactly has been happening in Sekondi when it comes to boxing in the past few years.
Sekondi Takrade is known for lots of things: ports, deep connection to music, and a rich culture heritage. And while it has deep sport connections, not many of you will know the city's love affair with boxing. Takrade was once a powerhouse in Ghanaian sports, had a thriving boxing culture that produced some of the country's finest fighters. During its golden years, the Twin City was home to a vibrant boxing scene with packed arenas, dedicated gyms, and passionate fans who treated the sport as more than just entertainment. It was a way of life. From neighborhood bouts to national championships, boxing provided an avenue for young talents to rise from humble beginnings to national and even international stardom. Legendary fighters such as Eddie Blay, who competed at the 1960 and 1964 Olympics and won a bronze medal in the light welterweight 63.5 kg category in 1964. Eko Nkrane, who became the national heavyweight champion in the 70s.
My father was a very good boxer that everybody knows, but these days boxing has gone down. Some of the areas where we used to see they used to host boxing events were Zenith, that's Prempe Hall, or sometimes in Jendu Park. And these places currently, you can't see a boxing gym anywhere in Takrade. So I hope if those who have this memory and those who have interest, they should come in to rebuild Western Region, because Western Region has a lot of sports talent.
Today, the sport that kept the city alive and glued to one neighborhood no longer lives.
There were places in the city that were very active as far as boxing was concerned. Places like Go Mango in Takrade, places like Asimen Sudu in Sekondi, places like Kwesi Zongo, places like Efiekuma, and these areas had their superheroes.
21-year-old Isaac Eshen and 17-year-old Papa Akon, son of the legendary Eko Nkrane, both aspiring to be boxers, face a minimal chance of reaching their dreams. The lack of professional training, guidance, and equipment needed to help foster their growth is one that stalls their dream.
I want to become a boxer. It has been my dream since childhood. But I'm really paying, maybe I know be training. It's a that you training.
I'm excited to be here. I was not able to train at my former place. Unfortunately, we lack training facilities.
Here, once upon a time, used to be the heartbeat of the city, producing greats like Go Mango, Anthony Lowe, Eko Nkrane, and Muhammad Al-Hassan, aka the Knockout King.
Those days, people like Eko Nkrane, most Ghanaians have heard about him. Ekokrane was the heavyweight champion of Ghana. And this is a tough guy. This was a tough guy who was known in Sekondi Takoradi. He was a blacksmith by profession. And he was a boxer as well. So you go to Go Mango. He fought into his old days and he was training people at Go Mango. Apart from Ekokrane, we had Anthony Joe.
Today, the once prominent sport has faded, leaving behind memories of a once thriving culture that shaped generations. Both Isaac and Papa Akon chase a common goal, but their quest in making their dream a reality is at death's door.
Today, the once prominent sport has faded, leaving behind memories of a once thriving culture that shaped generations. Both Papa Akon and Isaac's quest in making their dream a reality is at death's door. For 3 Sports, Barack Minter Brown.
Well, a very thoughtful story there put together by Barack Minter Brown on how Takoradi seems to have lost ground when it comes to the conveyor belt for boxing talent. But we can move on to further stories where we'll talk about the Champions League, because the big upset has happened. Feyenoord has become the first side from the playoffs to reach the semi-finals after grabbing a 1-1 draw. AC Milan took an early lead through former Feyenoord striker Jimenez, but had to endure the final 25 minutes or so with 10 men after Lucas Hernandez was shown a second yellow card. Feyenoord did find the goal that was enough to send them through an aggregate, given that they already won the first leg by 1-0. And so you can get updates on the fixtures, that's the playoff matches that would be happening at 8 p.m. and beyond on our social media handles at 3 Sports GH. My name is Oreku Ampofo.
Thank you so much, Oreku. Coming up, international news.
More than 200 unarmed civilians have been killed in a cluster of villages in Sudan over 3 days by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, that is involved in a brutal conflict with the military, a local rights group has said. The Emergency Lawyers Network said the attacks happened in Al-Qadaris and Al-Kelwat towards the north of White Nile states, areas where the military had no presence. RSF fighters were guilty of executions, kidnappings, and forced disappearances and property looting, the network added. The RSF, which was allied to the military before the civil war broke out in April 2023, has not commented on the allegations. The two had come to power together in a coup, but fell out over an internationally backed plan to move towards civilian rule. The United States and Russia said on Tuesday they had agreed to press ahead with efforts to end the war in Ukraine after holding talks in the Saudi capital at which Kyiv was not represented. The 4.5 meeting in Riyadh marked a crucial moment, first time that US and Russian officials have sat down together to discuss ways to halt the deadliest conflict in Europe since World War II. Ukraine says it will not accept any deal imposed on it without its consent. U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz told reporters in Riyadh that the war must come to a permanent end, and this would involve negotiations over territory.
Well, that's all for News 360. Thanks very much for watching. For more news, you can log on to our website. It's www.3news.com. My name is Kwesi Asare.
And I am Portia. Gabor. Do join Alfredo Cancer at 10 p.m. for Ghana tonight. Good evening.